Boy, when I miss a day, or a few, you people really want your Avatar vlog. So, yeah, here is episode 16, The Deserter. And this is one I would almost put in the filler category, but I think there's enough that I sort of said, okay, this is good to know. Like this is good information to know. In this one, they start off going to this carnival run by the Fire Nation, which, come on, guys. Does that sound remotely like a good idea? But, okay, so they go to this place, they accidentally out themselves, and get chased out. Honestly, you probably could cut that whole bit. And they come across this guy who says that he knows a firebender who's not part of the Fire Nation. He reminds me a lot sort of Dennis Hopper from Apocalypse Now. Like, he's a genius, man. He's a mad genius. So they go to visit this guy, and Aang thinks, well, this is great. He can master firebending. And they come across this person, and he does not want to teach Aang. He doesn't want to teach him, not just because he's a kid, but because he doesn't want to teach anyone this firebending. At least not anyone who doesn't have this incredible restraint and control over them. And even though Aang is a very likable kid and has these wonderful attributes, he's still a kid. He still has to be taught a lot of this stuff, and he sees that as a big mistake. The reason being, and this is why I think this episode is actually a little better than just a filler episode, is because he was saying, unlike the other elements, this is an element that is actually designed to destroy, in a sense. You know, a water really isn't, earth really isn't, air really isn't. I mean, they can, but that's not sort of their only function. Fire is pretty much made to destroy something, and you can get stuff out of it, but it's made to destroy. And what's interesting about that is that suddenly it makes sense how the Fire Nation came to take over everything and why they feel they want to take over everything. If you have this power that naturally wants to destroy and consume, it makes sense. So I found that very fascinating that this guy did not want to teach Aang, you know, even though Aang is a nice kid, and eventually he gives in because the inner avatar in Aang comes out, and I like that scene. Again, you don't know exactly what he can do, and I love the way they do it. It's not like a big explosion or a big boom of light, just the lights go out, comes back on, and there he is. There's the older avatar. I thought that was a very nice way of doing it. It sort of gives you a double take too, so that was very nicely handled. Some of this stuff, again, I know Aang's a kid, and we don't know where he was in his training. Some of it I do sort of... Well, then again, my original mindset was that he should know some of this stuff, that this does take time, that this does take patience, and he's willing to do it. I will say, though, what is interesting is that the teacher keeps Aang on this mountain doing these exercises for, like, hours. If it was an hour or 10 minutes or something like that, and Aang came back, I'd be like, come on, kid, you have to know better than this. But granted, hours, plural, is a while. So I think that's a little bit more identifiable the more I think about it. What bothered me a little bit is that I don't like how Aang was kind of showing off with the fire after, you know, when he's finally starting to get it down. After he was taught so much, just driven into him, don't show off, use it responsibly, restrained and stuff like that. You know, just immediately he shows off, and that, I don't know, that got to me. Aang seemed smarter than that. And I know he's a little kid, but the way they're building this kid up, he seemed wiser than that. And again, he immediately knows his mistake, and he apologizes and understands if he should not be shown how to do this, or if he should keep away from the fire, because he knows he'll get burned, or his, you know, possible, most likely future girlfriend will get burned. And then that's another element, is that she gets her hands burned, goes, puts her hands in the water, heals herself. And the teacher's like, you're a healer. She's like, yeah. What? Did she always know this? Was this a new development? Did she find that out at the time? It's done very vaguely and very quickly. And I'm still not sure, like, was... That sort of seemed out of the blue. I didn't even know water was part of, like, you know, was a healing art or whatever. So that was a little weird. That could have been explained better. But I like also what came in pretty smart was that I'm just gonna call him the Malfoy general, because I know the guy who was one of the Malfoys plays this voice, so I'm just always gonna call him that. Or maybe I'll get his name. I'm getting better at the other names. But for now, he's Malfoy general. He comes in. The teacher has explained that this guy does not have self-control. That's one of the reasons he became this general for this evil army. And Aang comes across him. They have this duel. Aang clearly cannot outdo this guy. I mean, he has fire coming at him, and Aang is not powerful enough. So he has to use his wit, and he remembers what he said, that he was a student, and he did not have self-control. So I like that he used his knowledge of his own self-control and his own anger and his own frustration to use against him, and ran around the ships and kept making him angrier and angrier, taunting him, saying how bad his powers are and so forth, and what an insult he is, and he's not even feeling it, and making him madder and madder, because we get more and more angry, you get more and more stupid, and he burns the ships. And they have no way to get back. So that was nicely good. I like how that all tied together. I wish there could have been a little bit more time. If they took out the carnival, they probably could have had a little bit more time to dedicate to that. And some of these things would have connected a little better. But they connected okay. So it is a good episode. And it goes a little beyond the filler, because I think it gives a little background just into the nature of the Fire Nation without necessarily having to spell it out for you. I think this episode, even if you don't explain too much else, I'm sure they will go into more detail, but even if you don't explain too much else, you understand how the Fire Nation took over just by the nature of fire and what they are, I don't know if it's born with or whatever, but what they're growing up with. So I found that very fascinating. If they do give more detail, great, but they have it set, and I thought just by these little hints, and not even saying this is why the Fire Nation is like this, just saying this is what fire is like, I thought that was a very clever way of actually showing a lot of human nature in a sense. If you were growing up with this power, you'd probably be a little bit of a bully too, because that is a lot of power to be growing up with. So, yeah, it was a good episode. I did enjoy it. I do wish other parts got more focus, and like I said, I wish the opening could have probably just been cut out. But I did enjoy it, so good episode. See you at number 17.